I'm doing this video as a listening only presentation because I want to just read what I have to share so that I don't get distracted or ramble like I tend to do when I speak off the cuff. So, what I want to share today was prompted by a podcast a good friend sent me from the Stick of Joseph channel, where the discussion was centered around the New Testament parable of the 10 virgins and the deep cultural significance of the elements of that parable in terms of the ancient Jewish wedding ceremony. Since listening to the podcast, I've also been having some fascinating discussions with an amazing person who I connected with when she heard about my book, Sophia Healing the Serpent, and asked to read it. This person was interested in my book because she has a background in Gnostic teachings and practice, and since then we've had a few really cool chats on the subject, which has also prompted me to start sharing because these are topics I've wanted to openly discuss for quite some time. When I listened to the Stick of Joseph podcast, I was heartened to see a group of LDS members starting to dig deep and read beyond the Mormon canon for insight into the scripture. And my main thought was, wow, they're really getting closer to unveiling the profound mysteries which mainstream Christianity has all but lost. But first, I want to begin with a quick recap, plus add to some of what was brought up in the podcast. Looking at the significance of the ancient cultural practices around marriage and highlighting how much we have lost in a general sense in terms of understanding the sacred nature of the marriage covenant. In the podcast, they discussed the contractual marriage agreement and the fact that marriages were arranged by the fathers of the couple to be married. They made the point that the written contract wasn't so much about imprisoning the bride or treating her like property, but about contractually ensuring that she would be well taken care of for life. In an ideal sense, daughters and women were seen as a divine stewardship, and the father of a bride-to-be needed to be satisfied that he was passing his daughter into the care of a man who would look after her and love her as well as he had. So apart from meeting social expectations, the bridegroom was expected to pay a handsome dowry to the bride's family in order to secure the right to betrothal. This demonstrated that he was financially secure enough to be able to provide a decent lifestyle and stability for his future wife. After betrothal, which was a binding arrangement, the groom would then be given a year to build and prepare a house for his betrothed, so that she would be insured of a roof over her head and physical protection after their union. On the bride's side, the main thing that she was bringing to the party was her purity. This, of course, was not established or proven until the actual wedding night, once the groom had finally arrived at her home in preparation to take her back with him to the house which he had built. But before they set off, there was a week-long period of feasting in celebration. During that time, the main event would be the official consummation of the marriage, after which the couple was expected to provide evidence in the form of a blood-stained cloth of the bride's previous virginity. If there was no evidence of this, it was assumed that the bride was in fact defiled goods, and the marriage contract was thus broken and she could be stoned to death. While in our day this seems barbaric and extreme, it goes to show how much importance was placed on the virginal state of the woman. And this is what I want to delve a little deeper into now. The tradition of tremendous value being placed on a woman's virtue is both cross-cultural and very ancient. And there is more foundation to the belief that a man simply wants to be the only one to have owned his woman. It is more profound than mere ego. There is a deep mystery known as sexual alchemy, which was taught in all the ancient mystery schools and understood in many old cultures, which holds that a woman's innate power is her strong connection to spirit. That when a woman's internal waters, i.e. body fluids, are unsullied or undiluted by another's, that she holds a great, even magical healing or life-giving power within her body. This is the ancient origin of the spiritual teaching of the waters or the tree of life. On the inner plane, the tree of life represents a woman's vagina and womb with her tubes and ovaries as the branches. This mystery is also the foundation of the ancient pure lamb sacrifice, or even of the sacrifice of human virgins. The blood or inner waters of a female creature in her virginal state were understood to hold such great power that gods could be appeased and great healing could come to a whole people from such. Well, such was the tradition. Thus, to have the privilege of marrying a virgin and of being the first to tap into that power has, since very ancient times, been considered the highest honor and blessing a man could hope to receive in his life. It was believed that the man stood to gain a great deal in terms of healing and spiritual potential if he was the first to connect with a woman's inner powers. Thus, a virtuous woman was considered worth paying a great price for, and if she should ultimately prove to not be worthy of the price that was paid because her virginal status was called into question, then she became essentially worthless to the man. Now, while we know that Christ went to great lengths to discourage such cruel practices as stoning women caught in sin, or of harsh punishments in a general sense, he nevertheless understood the importance of a woman's virtue and was himself a master and teacher of the deep mystery of spiritual marriage, aka sexual alchemy. While for a long time the Roman Catholic Church tried to remove or hide any information relating to the true nature of the relationship between Yeshua ben Yosef, or Jesus the Christ as we know him, and the woman we know as Mary Magdalene, we now have access to ample sources proving that they were in fact married and co-practitioners of the mystery of sexual alchemy. One does not need to read very far into the into the Gnostic Gospels, to realize that Mary Magdalene held a special status in her relationship with Christ, being referred to as the apostle to the apostles and the one that he loved best. There are also references made to the fact that their relationship was not merely that of a teacher and devoted student, but a romantic one, noting that Christ would, and this is a quote, kiss her often on the mouth with a holy kiss. This statement leads the reader to understand that their romance was of a highly spiritual and profound nature, which is perfectly in line with the deep teachings of those students of Gnosis who understand that the true nature or highest potential of the marriage union between a man and a woman is spiritual, and that the man is not without the woman, neither the woman without the man in the Lord. In mystery schools since ancient times, it has been taught that ultimate spiritual alchemy or spiritual transformation or transmutation, that's what alchemy means, can only occur when the masculine and feminine energies combine in a holy synergy, and that the coming together of a man and a woman in a mystical sexual union can lead to higher states of awareness, ultimately collapsing the ego bodies of the two parties so that they literally become one whole being in spirit. Being able to achieve this degree of enlightenment with one's spouse was the ultimate goal of those initiated into the mysteries of the highest order. Back in the day, of course, the Catholic Church perceived any information which would lead people to becoming spiritually powerful as individuals as threatening to their dominion over the masses. So naturally, they tried to get rid of such sources of knowledge, including those adepts who taught the mysteries. They also went to great lengths to hide information about the true nature of the relationship between Christ and his wife Mary, and made a targeted theological attack on Mary's character, painting her as a woman steeped in sin and of lesser significance than Christ's male followers. The twisting of such information, plus the loss of much deep spiritual knowledge, especially as regarding the spiritual power innate in women and the fundamental role which women play in helping men achieve states of greater spiritual power, was the real spiritual apostasy in the centuries between the time of Christ and the apostles and now. And at last, however, such knowledge is finally returning and being disseminated, and there are many which are being spiritually led to an understanding of the fullness of the truth once more.